You know when you're taking a piss and some of it makes it into the toilet bowl while the rest splatters all over the floor, but you don't care because you're 6 beers down and that game of pool isn't going to win itself, you know? Then you think you're all done, but just as you're zipping up, a little bit more dribbles out for no apparent reason. Then you have to do some very dodgy contortions beneath the hand dryer to get it sorted. Well, if the X-Men series is the drunken hit and miss attempt to get urine into a toilet bowl, then New Mutants must be the unwelcome dribble of piss that comes out when you think it's all over. A movie shot way back in 2017, delayed for reshoots as they tried to turn it from an angsty teen drama into a straight up horror movie, and then shelved altogether while Disney gobbled up 20th Century Fox like the giant creativity destroying black hole of entertainment that they've become. The disastrous failure of Dark Phoenix persuaded Disney that it wasn't really worth spending more money on a franchise that was going to get rebooted anyway, so the only option left was to punt New Mutants out onto the market and just hope for the best.
Not a great plan.
So here we find ourselves at the tail end of a bleak 2020 movie season, presented with this weird, sad little aborted X-Men spin-off. A film that seems to have so much going against it that it almost feels irrelevant how good or bad it is. But what the hell, I guess I could do with a good laugh today. So let's begin our analysis, shall we? The movie kicks off by introducing us to main character Danny. Oh no, not again! Danny is a Native American living on a reservation, and she gets woken up by a big commotion in the middle of the night. Stuff's exploding, buildings are burning down, and people are running around getting fucked up. It's like a good night out in Portland. Her dad manages to lead her to safety, but then he dies because the plot doesn't need him anymore. So Danny runs away into the woods and gets chased by a big monster that makes her fall down and pass out. We've all been there, Danny, except that my monster is my crippling addiction to high percentage alcohol. Anyway, so I guess that's our intro. Danny wakes up sometimes later strapped to a bed in the world's most sinister looking hospital, where suspicious doctor lady explains that she's a mutant with special powers. Naturally, this makes her dangerous to others, so she was brought to discount Hogwarts while she learns to understand and control her new powers. Oh, and she's not allowed to leave or communicate with the outside world in any way. Seems legit to me. Can't see any reason to doubt this character's motivations. Anyway, this is where we get introduced to the other generic stock characters, mutants in this movie. There's a young Russian girl named Ilyana Rasputin. I love how they come up with names for these comic book characters. Can't wait to meet her friends Hank Rockefeller, Pierre Napoleon, and Angus McHaggiskilt. Anyway, Ilyana can open portals that allow her to teleport around, and she has an imaginary friend named Lockheed that's actually a toy dragon. Okay. There's Bobby, a South American dude that can shoot fire when he gets angry. Who does this remind me of? There's also Sam, who can fly through the air like Superman, and last of all, Rain, a Scottish girl that can turn into a wolf. Wait, isn't that basically just a werewolf? Ah, whatever. Don't think about it too much. I know I didn't. Anyway, the Fab Five reckon that they've been recruited into the X-Men, which is a pretty interesting leap of deductive logic if you ask me. When I'm abducted against my will and locked in a disused lunatic asylum with no staff and a weird energy force field preventing me from leaving, I probably wouldn't assume that there's a bright future ahead of me. So now that we know who everyone is, it's time for some interpersonal drama. Ilyana turns out to be kind of an asshole who constantly clashes with Danny. Rain, on the other hand, keeps giving her these lingering looks. I wonder where this could be heading. Yeah, before you know it, they're in the most unconvincing romance since Rise of Skywalker. Lovely stuff, but all is not well in discount Hogwarts. The group starts to experience visions of past tragedies and personal traumas, as if this place is somehow learning their deepest fears and using it against them. It's kind of like Event Horizon, if Event Horizon was shit. But it turns out it's not the building that's causing this, it's Danny herself.
Oh man! Oh god! Oh man!
See, her mutant power is the ability to manifest a person's worst fears. Who does this remind me of? And wouldn't you know it, suspicious Doctor Lady isn't here to recruit them into the X-Men, she's training them to become assassins for an evil corporation who do evil corporation things.
No way!
Wow, I was so shocked by this revelation that I had to sit down. So anyway, I think you can see where this is all leading. The group has to overcome their fears and insecurities, put aside their personal differences, and work together to defeat suspicious Doctor Lady so that they can escape from the hospital. And that's it. That's basically the plot for New Mutants. Now, despite all the bad things I'm about to say about it, I actually think there were some interesting ideas at the core of this movie. It's a welcome break from the bombastic CGI excesses of the mainline X-Men movies, focusing instead on telling a smaller, more intimate, more character-driven story. The inclusion of horror elements was a logical choice in a series that's all about humans manifesting powers they can't control. It opens the door to all kinds of possibilities, which I guess could have been explored in future movies in the series. New Mutants was clearly an attempt to branch out and experiment with new ideas and characters in a series that had become kind of stale and played out. The fact that it went into production around the same time as Logan could have signalled the beginning of a tonal shift in the X-Men franchise. Unfortunately, this all relies on one thing: New Mutants actually being a good movie. And that's the problem, it's not. If you're gonna have a tight, self-contained story focused on a small cast of characters, then you need to make them complex, interesting and compelling, the kind of people you'd want to learn more about. Instead, we're lumbered with a collection of generic stereotypes that could have come from any young adult drama ever. There's the bad boy who wants to be the alpha male, the mean girl who hides a more vulnerable side, the troubled guy with anger issues, and the timid love interest that slowly finds her confidence. It's all standard stuff that we've seen a million times before, and it's not helped by the anemic performances from a bunch of 20-something nobodies that don't seem to know why they're here. And to be honest, after seeing this movie, I'm not entirely sure either. The only actor that I've even heard of is Maisie Williams. What is it with Fox trying to shove Game of Thrones actors into their movies? I mean, she at least has a bit more personality than the walking charisma vacuum that is Sophie Turner. Dear Hollywood, stop trying to make Sophie Turner happen. It's not going to happen. But the problem is that Williams only has a narrow range of roles that she can effectively play, like Arya Stark, or you know, it always makes me laugh when actors try to sound Scottish, but for some reason, they always end up talking with the same exact accent. It's terribly draining to listen to. There's no real chemistry between her and Danny, and the more I think about it, the more I realise that their relationship is basically just pointless tokenism. It doesn't really go anywhere, it doesn't redefine the plot or force either character to make difficult decisions in light of their emotional attachment to each other. It's just kind of plunked in there for diversity points. Well, the drinker isn't so easily impressed. If I want to see two women kissing, I'll just get Tatiana to bring along her mate Natalia next time. The movie also flirts with the idea of being a horror film, and I have to admit, there was some potential with the smiling men and the possibility of being forced to relive traumatic memories. This is all good stuff. The problem is that it lacks the confidence to really commit to it, so scenes that should be frightening just come across as watered down and weak. And this is where the lack of reshoots comes in. See, the movie was originally written to be a young adult drama, with some light horror elements to spice things up. But then they cut the trailer to make it look like a straight up horror film, and everyone seemed to like it. This presented quite the dilemma. Clearly, more work needed to be done to bring the movie in line with expectations, but the Fox merger, combined with the decommissioning of the X-Men franchise, meant that there wasn't the time or the budget to make it happen. Instead of effectively meshing the horror and superhero genres into an interesting new product, New Mutants tries to straddle an awkward middle ground between the two, and as a result, it fails to really achieve either. Ultimately, while New Mutants had the potential to carve out a darker, more edgy niche in the superhero genre, what it actually delivers is a film that's too safe, too predictable, too restrained, and worst of all, far too late for anyone to care about. A movie that'll be remembered as the whimper with which the X-Men franchise finally died. Actually, forget that, it probably won't be remembered at all. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.